Hello everyone. Since this is either a highlight, a standalone book, or the first episode in a series, I'm jumping in to remind you what the rules are for this podcast. First rule is, no real people stories. That means that any details from our own lives are merely anecdotal, we do not read books about real people, and we are not reading historical fiction. The second rule is that we are basing our analyses off of how the author treats characters and what they put them through. We are not judging the accuracy of the trauma, the accuracy of any actual conditions that may be portrayed, nor the authenticity of a character's reaction to that trauma or that particular condition. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The hosts are not trained professionals, and their opinions come solely from personal experience. In this episode, we discuss fictional depictions of trauma and violence that may not be suitable for all audiences. Please take care of yourselves. Specific content warnings for each episode can be found in the show notes. Events in the media are discussed in approximate order of escalation. This episode contains spoilers.
This week on Books That Burn, we are talking about The Cat Who Sniffed Glue, a book in Lilian Jackson Braun's The Cat Who Murder Mystery series. Qwilleran has to figure out what his cat is telling him about the murders and how to resolve some of the issues in the town. Hi, I'm Nicole.
And I'm Robin, and today on Books That Burn, we have a guest. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dare. It's nice to be here, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. You are joining us for The Cat Who Sniffed Glue, in which there is a lot of stuff and lots of cats. Oh my goodness, so much cats.
It is a solid only 2 cat ratio.
I know, but they have their own apartment.
They're cool.
And that makes it feel like so many more cats. Anyway, the factions.
That's fair.
We have Jim Qwilleran, then we have Coco and Yum Yum, the aforementioned cats, Pete, Belle Fitch, Jill Fitch, David Fitch, Harley Fitch, Margaret Fitch, and Nigel Fitch. One of the nice things with this book was that every chapter had the list of what characters are in that chapter, so that was a lot of fun. So our first topic is Erasure for Belle.
I think we might need to put a slight disclaimer up front that we are going to talk about some things with Belle that we don't really go really super deep in depth into in what actually happens to her in the book. That's because we are going to be going in depth in those things in topic 3. So, Belle does not survive this book, but we are not talking about that until topic 3. We are going to cover it.
Yep. So we're calling this Erasure because she spends most of the time just being referred to as somebody's wife. We're like pretty far in the book before we catch her name. She's just so
much so that I didn't even remember that she had a name.
Mm-hmm.
When we were preparing for this a second ago, I wasn't sure if she ever got one.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
She's also, like, a lot of the time when she's mentioned, not named in nice ways either. It's
no,
not great.
No.
Yeah, she is lower class, but they use worse terms than that. They're very upset. I think she gets referred to as, like, the hired help, at one point.
As the spouse, at the same
right.
To be clear, she is currently the spouse, and someone is referring to her as the hired help that, like, that
yeah,
she was
like
almost
the implication
bought and paid for her status.
And when they're referring to her in this way, she is already dead. So It's not like she's alive and people feel okay bad-mouthing her. It's she's dead and literally only one person, David, has anything nice to say about her.
Now, I do want to note, so a lot of our really. That's not him being told things. Of our perspective of what happens in this book is from Qwilleran. It's from Qwilleran, our main character, our only real point of view character. And there are several moments where somebody disparages Belle or other characters in the book that you would kind of get Quill's background thoughts of just, wow, that's harsh. And he doesn't put it in those terms. But this is kind of a topic that kind of almost goes under the surface, because this person, Belle, is so negatively thought of that she's not even really the main story. And the people that are talking about her and giving details on her life when Quilla's asking are almost reluctant because they don't think she's important enough. Like, there's a couple of scenes where they're like, well, why do you want to know about her? She's just this, this upstart who married this guy and just to get into that family because of all the things the family has. And she just wants to be part of this thing. And, she's married above her station or whatever. And it's super derogatory. Not because they use derogatory words, but because they are the intention of it is very much of we're knocking her down because she is not who we wanted. And they don't say like he should have married XYZ, but they say like there's even a couple people I think who quite literally say he should have married somebody, literally anybody else. And it's just this very objectifying, very like classist take on this person who we don't even really see on screen, so to speak.
And even when we have the one person who talks positively about her, it's in the sense that he is bitter that someone else married her and so he's not with her. I would say, and now she's dead, but it's not even that. Like it seems like he's vocally more upset that he didn't get to marry her than that she is now dead.
Yeah, he didn't get to claim her, so to speak.
Yeah, she...
Yeah.
Thank you. She feels secondary in every aspect of her life and, death.
Mm-hmm.
Her marriage is treated as a mistake and a sham and just a form of rebellion. Her tragedy is less about her actual, death and more just about, just the rich family, the family that matters. She is always just referred to as the lower class girl who happened to just get involved with there.
Mm-hmm.
And this book, I don't know how intentional it was, but really does seem to, it focuses on class a whole lot. And it comes into play. It's a very just bourgeois setting. Just in all of it, this is a book and series in which the cats have an apartment and a personal chef. Money and wealth happen and are discussed a lot, and for this character to not have those makes her considered gives her way less personhood. In a very, I think, interesting and yikesy way, I think would be the best word to describe it.
Yeah, and even the people who are working class in this town, because the town isn't all rich people.
No.
There's a bunch of social strata in it, but everybody except for the guy she used to date, potentially. I don't know if they actually dated.
He's from a neighboring town, just so you know. He's not even from Pickaxe. Yeah, and neither is she.
So everyone except for the person who wanted to date her resents her for changing where she was in the strata, the social strata. Mm-hmm. Whether or not they're in the strata she jumped to or the strata she left, everybody resents her because it kind of they don't say this, but it upsets the order of their world. It affronts their sense of where things ought to be. And So yeah, it's not like the entire town is rich people, because you literally can't have that.
Well, and I will say there's not a lot of focus on it in this book. But just because we are doing this as a highlight, we're not reading more of these for the show. I'm going to go ahead and state that not every plot in every book in this setting deals with the upper class. Pickaxe is a town that has like a couple of really well-to-do people. One of the people we'll talk about later is the banker. Literally the banker. This is a tiny town. The only banker. And I think there's a couple other like would-be socialites, and they're only would-be socialites because there's only like 3 of them, and so there isn't really anybody else for them to be social with, so to speak. But like this is a town where the vast majority are like middle class in what middle class used to mean. In America, they have enough money to live their lives, go to work, come home, have other hobbies. They're not rich, but they're not going to starve. And because it is a tiny town, there isn't really like a lot of job turnover. When somebody dies, it is a huge deal. When somebody moves away, it's an even bigger deal. And so there's almost this sense of like changing your class, changing your social strata takes what is this like set hierarchy of how the town itself functions, and you've now disturbed the force. There's now an open spot where there wasn't one, and you've closed off a spot that used to be there, and it in a weird way, everybody in this area feels like that decision affected their lives, even though it absolutely did not.
If I had a point about the town as well, in which this town,
absolutely,
I will say to the writer's credit, she uses a lot of great descriptors to describe everything about this town. It feels very lived in, and it feels lived in the sense of like a game like Stardew Valley, in which there's like 20 people, but like every
oh my god,
every person
that's such
has
a
like
yeah,
because even the people we focus on, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 people who actually work like food service jobs who don't actually just own the place. Like if I remember correctly, I remember hearing about like 2 servers, 1 who retires, and 1 who's fairly new, but everyone else is either like, yeah, I do, I like hang the new wall stuff, or I like run this
for
weird,
the whole town.
yeah, this weird 100 like year old bar, or like I am like a boat. Like everyone has a successful job in which like there's like maybe 2 people who might have to worry about getting by like financially. This town just does feel like one of those idyllic places where like poverty just feels like it doesn't exist. We relocate it to that like awful town that we think the criminals come from, and that terrible Belle girl.
Right, I was gonna say, which not coincidentally is where the character we're talking about is from. Yeah.
And I just realized, like, it feels... Okay, what town is the taxidermy guy from? Is he from...
God, I don't know.
Pickaxe? Or is he from the poor town? Because it felt like...
Didn't Quill go to the neighboring town?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah. Because he had to talk to people tried to talk to people who knew Belle. And
he
it didn't
tried
go
very
super
hard.
Well. But yeah, like with the class stuff, because Pete uses snowshoes and is a trapper. And then like there's a taxidermy guy with like a very overbearing mother. Like Quill had to like pretend that he was unable to interview 2 people at once in order to get her to stop answering for her son. So like it definitely felt like, and I think like the boat guy is in that town too. So like all of these more like either rugged or more working class jobs are all like in this town, that the town that has more upper class people doesn't like and thinks is just like dangerous and trashy. And so, yeah.
We should say, like, jobs that are of that, like you said, like more rugged or more, but they're not things that everybody uses in everyday life.
Right.
Like, you know, Derry, you mentioned, like, those people that own their own restaurant or store, or, like, those are absolutely that quote-unquote level of job, but those are things that, like, the townspeople of Pickaxe need every day.
Right.
And so, you know, they don't look down on the local grocer who just is a customer service representative 24/7. They do look down on the taxidermist, who they don't think of as being necessary. Yeah, that's very much that. So before we head into section 2, I did want to really quick point out, Derry, you mentioned that her whole story was about rebellion. And I just wanted to point out, for any of our audience who has not read this book and is just listening to our show, that is not her rebellion. She's not the one being rebellious. And that's still, like, all we get of her as a person.
Like, she exists to be the, like I this may, like, maybe hit a bit just because as a black person, but, like, one of the things that has happened, like, in interacting with people romantically, is there's been the occasion of, like, I feel like I exist mostly to upset your family, and less, like, that sort of, like, fetishization of, like, I guess in this case it would be the of her, like, not being from that town, of her being poor and, like, lower class, of, like, oh, you know what would really make my parents mad, what would really, like, make my mom mad, is if I were to get with you. And, like,
right.
That I found that very interesting, and, like, especially to when this book was written, like, this is a very weird, like, not big series, but, like, examining that again would be very fun. I very much enjoyed the fact we picked a book that's not, like, super, super well known. But, like, I do deeply find it fascinating, to the degree of her being treated as, like, a little bit of I guess she exists to die and also make the parents mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yikes.
And there's an extra thing that I'm definitely going to circle back with this when we get to topic 3, and we're talking about her more in the context of all the people whose her existence seems to upset. Because, yeah, there's, like, an extra... Yeah, there's, like, an extra terrible dimension to this that involves, like, who kills her. So we're gonna talk about that in the third topic. But, yeah, like... And I think the book definitely is commenting on it. Like, the framing of the book, like, does not approve, but also... because of how impartial and impassive Qwilleran is trying to be, it means that he's not championing her, he's not trying to bring her to light, he's not trying to, like, get people to see anything, he's just recording the way that the town erased her.
Yeah.
Which...
And it's definitely not a... It's definitely commentary, but it's definitely not... oh, this is bad, and so we're just gonna brush past that. Like, no, the book takes the time to say, hey, wow, they really don't treat her very well, do they? That seems very suspicious. And then, because it is a murder mystery, there's a whole, is this the answer thing that he goes through, like, 3 or 4 times as he's investigating. But it's not something that just happens. But it's also not the plot, to be fair.
Yeah. Nope, she's there to upset his parents. Gosh, as far as he's concerned anyway. On to Qwilleran and the car accident. This was one of the most terrifying and visceral things in the entire book.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not extremely graphic in comparison to, like, most of the stuff I'm reading, but in this book, it just jumps up in comparison to everything else. Because now something has happened to Qwilleran, whereas before everything was happening to other people.
Yeah. He's incredibly unflappable for this entire story. And you know, he's 8 books deep now. So he's like, most weird stuff, he's just sort of like, yep, no, it's happened. And like, just very, very like honest and just reporting things as it comes through until something happens to the cats. And then suddenly all composure just disappears from this man. And he is just panicked. And it's honestly like the most human I've seen him of just like, everything is falling apart because he does not know where his cats are. And he waits hand and feet on these cats.
They're
like,
very much his life.
Just kind of like talking about like how much he cares about these cats like before this car accident happens. Also, I wanted to clarify, the cats are fine. Just
they are super okay.
No animals perish.
The cats are fine. They have a run-in with a skunk.
They get stinky.
So that causes some things. But after he spends hours outside trying to find them and sitting with Polly as she tries to help him find them, like he does find them. The cats are okay. They're a little shaken. They don't like having to go to the vet, but the cats are fine. But Qwilleran is so not okay. And also, like, before this happened, he had been like trying to figure out why Yum Yum was upset. And also, after the accident, he's still trying to figure it out because he doesn't quite have it solved. But he's trying to figure out, like, why Yum Yum is upset and why Coco is doing all of this stuff. And the way he, like, concluded, oh my goodness, Yum Yum isn't using her litter box because I was a terrible person who didn't understand that she was a feminist and needed the same quality of commode as Coco.
Gosh.
And then he backed it up with action and got her an equivalent thing. He didn't just say, oh, she's fussy because she's a lady. He was like, I did a bad behavior that was like misogynist and didn't give her an equal like thing, and I'm gonna fix it. So like, he's the kind of person who does that and assumes that his cat has like a feminist objection because she didn't use the litter box.
Yeah. it's very humorous, but also it's like,
that's the level of like attention and care to like thinking about his cats having like inner lives and stuff. And then he's in this car accident with them and he's just beside himself, trying and just worried, and like people are like, oh, you know, we'll do a search. And he's like, and people are like, you know, an animal might get cats who are in these woods. And he's like, do not talk to me. If that is all you have to say, go. If all you have to do is tell me that they might be dead, go, leave, get away.
Like he himself is in a car crash. And he is like, no, I'm fine. Look, it hurts a little. That doesn't matter. The cats are all that matters. The car, it's fine. I'm rich. I'll get a new one. I'll fix that one. I need my cats. This is a man who I mentioned in a previous segment, just in case, you know, people may have avoided that one, that he has a personal chef. These cats have their own apartment. They are the most consistent people in his life. And like, for them to go missing and potentially be in danger, just really, really shakes him in a way that like is like so disparate from the rest of the story that it really does just sit with you of like, this, I am glad nothing happened. And I think a worse story, probably would have done something like significant and bad, which once again, I do appreciate. Especially with these cats being the titular cats of a 28-book series. But, like,
yeah,
it is just truly amazing the amount of love and respect he has for these cats and their personhood.
And, like, someone who's, like, trying to be helpful, like, I think it was, like, the police chief or whatever who came after the accident is like, they might be under the car. And Qwilleran's like, oh no. And so he's like torn between like looking for them and worrying that like they got crushed by the car or something. And yeah, then after that, someone is like, there's wild animals. And he's like, no.
This is a terrible joke, and I apologize in advance. This is the worst Schrodinger's cat situation ever. I am sorry.
Oh, gosh.
No, love a good quip, good pun.
You sound distressed.
Qwilleran would have punched you. I'm gonna be fair.
And I would have deserved it, but a good bit needs to be addressed. And you cannot talk about the uncertain fate of a cat without mentioning the obvious reference to the uncertain fate of a cat.
This is true. This is definitely true. But yeah, it's this moment where like, so these books are structured so like you could see it for the first time at an airport and pick up the book before you get on the plane and read it while you're in the air, and then like maybe keep it or not when you land on the ground. You probably have read the whole thing now, potentially. Like airport books are a thing. This feels like a perfect airport series because like it's got the cast of characters at every turn, like really good, subtle, awesome ways of conveying all this stuff about his character previously. Like Nicole like took the time to mention to Dare and myself, who like hadn't read any other books in this series, like, okay, so like he came into his money like a little bit after the series starts, and my reply was, oh, I know, the book conveyed that really well, and not like
not in like a I'm lording it over you that I have this thing kind of way.
Yeah, like
but
a
in
really
a oh god, I had to think about money
it.
kind of way.
And so like I think without but that kind of grounding can only like get you so far, and like when you have this like really cool, calm, collected person, like he has his like worries about like how to navigate his relationship with Polly. That's another place that he feels very, very human. But like he spends so much time talking about how other people feel and what's going on with other people having all this bad stuff happen, like murder, that I think having this event that is just like real, like, yeah, like Dare said, this like humanizing moment in the middle of this book. It's like, this is the only one that I have read, and like I feel really connected to this person. He like stopped feeling so like impartial and like impersonal as I was kind of feeling about him.
Yeah,
like this car accident just shook that up.
Very classic, like the world will change around him, and he sort of just like is just the conduit through which the change happens and just watches it happen, to, oh, this is a man with fears, and like it was already mentioned, his like sort of romantic hangups and all that stuff happening. But like besides that, which it feels very like commonplace, of like, oh, will he, won't he, with that, this is the one that I am like, oh no, I am legitimately 100% all bought in on. Are these cats okay?
Because like the will he, won't he implicitly is going to take the entire course of this series. Like, we can tell that like this is just a snapshot in some very long thing with him and Polly.
I think it even mentions
whether it's romantic at
like,
any one
past
moment or not.
People as well that are like, here's this person who I also have had like fancies with at a different point in time. And that's not to say nothing of like how the cats are the smartest characters in this book.
Yes. Yeah, canonically mentioned and also intrinsically demonstratively the smartest. They have they roll the highest on their wisdom saves forever.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. I feel like they roll the highest on their intelligence.
Well,
but not
sniffing glue is a low
here's
wisdom move, I will say.
Yeah, because Coco thought the best way to convey the clue was to get very high.
Well, to be fair, he tried really hard just being super interested in glue binding for like, I don't know, maybe 4 chapters, and Quill wasn't getting the hint, and he said, you know what? I'm just gonna eat it. Maybe he'll listen.
I have another solution. Continue.
You have another. Okay.
I think it may be an issue of low charisma, in which Coco does not have the ability to convey it through speech. So thus, Coco must think outside the box with high intelligence.
Yeah.
Also...
But I still contend that it's low wisdom, because there were other options.
I feel like that would be an intelligence score, though, because Coco is not a scientist. He might not know the glue effects before he did it.
But he did it again. So that's wisdom.
Well, all right, fine. Whatever. Sure.
For the anime listeners out there, I will also say, reading this very much reminded me of old Detective Conan / Case Closed stuff. Of, like, for people who may not know, it is a book in which a, like, super smart detective, like, teenager gets turned into, like, an 8-year-old, and has to help a bumbling detective solve various crimes and stuff. This is a classic long-running anime and manga that's been going on forever. Very much where he's just like, hey, look at this. And I was like, no, you're a child. So he just has to hint at the bigger people in the room. And that's what these cats are, and I love them for it.
Yeah, they're great. Oh, man.
On to the Fitches and the murder-suicide. And it is not a straightforward murder-suicide. It's murder, stroke, suicide. There's some time gaps involved.
I would like to amend that. Mm-hmm. Murder, stroke, suicide, mass murder.
Yes, car crash murder.
Yeah.
Is the car crash officially part of the murder?
It's an accident?
No, that's a good point.
It's not set up to look like it's not murder.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, car crash kills 3 people, and one of the people who dies is, like, the main suspect, and so then the police are like, well, guess our job is done.
Did we give the warning that we are spoiling?
Oh, yeah, so we're going
Robin, it's too late.
No, that's not the twist.
Oh, never mind, it's fine. Okay, just kidding.
Yeah, where our discussion is going to spoil the twist. So if you don't want this the twist spoiled, the main takeaway here is there's a lot of murder and also a suicide, and it has to do with the murder, and we'll catch you in the wrap-up. But if you don't mind the twist being spoiled, I'm about to do that, so...
Yeah, this is a murder mystery series, so we are going to ruin the book in this segment. In order to be able
to talk about it, because otherwise... it'll be so convoluted as to be an unusable discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
Buckle in. There's going to be like 6 names. Be ready.
Okay. All right.
Can we make an agreement right now that we're going to refer to people by first name, because otherwise saying Fitch over and over is going to, I think, be more confusing.
Oh, that word will lose meaning.
I began to hate myself when I was reading the factions at the start. I was like, oh no, why did I do this? It was a terrible idea. Okay, so Harley and Belle are murdered in their home. Then the mom has a stroke. The dad kills himself. The main suspect and 2 friends die in a car crash. Police act like the case is closed. Then, the twist, we find out it wasn't actually Harley. It was his twin, David, who died. Because. Well, I'll explain the because in a minute, but basically, the other twin is the one who died, and so the stroke was from the stress of, oh no, do I tell people that one of my sons killed the other, and the one that everyone thinks is dead is alive?
For the record,
the mom has a stroke from the stress.
Yeah, the stroke is their mom,
the twins,
who is named...
And then, Margaret.
Okay.
And then the father,
Nigel.
The father, thank you. The father, Nigel, kills himself because he can't handle that decision. And also his spouse just had a stroke and died. Like, that's bleak. That's so bleak.
Yeah, it's so
for the
rough.
dad. Yeah. But yeah, so...
And then, less than a chapter later, the primary initial, of course they did it, suspects all die in a car crash. And we should note, because this matters to how we're going to talk about this, all of these deaths happen in like a chapter and a half.
Yes, it is a major whiplash of, oh, okay. That's a huge body count in like 20 pages.
It is so
these are not
much
big chapters
that I missed the mention of the suicide and had to like go back because people referred to it a little bit later, and I was like, wait, there was this what? And then I go back and I'm like, oh no, there was so much that I missed that. Okay, so the complicated murder plan. So this is
the spoiler.
Yeah, this is definitely totally a spoiler. We already spoiled a little bit, but like absolutely spoilers. So Margaret, the mom, got David to marry Harley's girl, Jill, while Harley was in prison. Then Harley returns and marries Belle, who we spoke about earlier. Because she's lower class, he marries Belle to spite his mom. But, surprise, he still loves Jill. So Harley and Jill conspire to kill David and Belle and have Jill take, have Harley take David's place. Sorry, I wrote the wrong thing. The women don't switch. So everyone thinks that David is... Oh gosh.
Can I TLDR this?
You say it. Yeah, help me. I lost the thread.
Do you want to or you want me to, Dare?
I mean, you feel free. It's your podcast.
You're the guest. We get to talk all the time.
Okay.
Go for it.
So, yeah, because of the sheer stress of David having to survive, becoming pretty much the last major member of his family, him and Jill would be going to, what I believe, South America. That is their getaway plan, is Harley in disguise as David would get to leave the country and just presumably just never come back and live it up with his brother's with his brother's wife that, you know, he just ended.
Yep.
And I do want to, so I just want to real quick pare that down just in case anyone listened to all of that and went, what? What happened was, you have twin brothers who each had girlfriends. One of those brothers left. His twin married the girl of the guy who was gone. And then when the other twin came back, he married our first topic's focus, Belle. And then he conspired with his ex-girlfriend, who is now his brother's wife, to kill the other two partners.
Yep.
TLDR it without... Because it's a lot. It's a lot in the book. It's a lot for Qwilleran to puzzle out and everyone else to run around like, what is happening?
Like, the book actually has a moment where it's like, okay, Act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
it is maybe the most
this event.
Appreciated part of this book.
They just TLDR it for you. Yeah.
We should have just read that. But anyway, not doing that. But, okay, so here I'd like to circle back to the thing I mentioned earlier, that I alluded to earlier, and then we can talk about stuff with the other characters. But, so with Belle, because of the identity switch, because Harley isn't actually dead, but everyone thinks he's dead, and Harley was Belle's husband. When people are talking positively about Harley and then either negatively or not at all about Belle after Belle is murdered, it means that it's not just people are talking about her husband who is also dead and ignoring her. They're actually saying the name of her murderer over and over and over and not saying her name at all except to trash her. or not saying her name at all and trashing her. So, our first topic is erasure, and, like, this is kind of a major thing in that erasure. We just couldn't stick it on that other section without spoiling all of this. But yeah, so that's a thing that's happening that is just, and I think that for me, that's one of the things that absolutely makes this, like, commentary and not just forgetting about Belle.
And not, it's very much commentary, not perpetuation, I think is the important part. Because, like, these characters very much exist in this framing, where it's like, it's a thing in the book, but it's a thing that a little bit gets, I think I said this in the first topic, I'm just going to say it again, because I think it is important, because when we talk about trauma, you get as a reader, as a consumer of books, reading about things that are representative or just straight up different versions of real life traumas. This is a book that very much does not pull any punches as far as how the characters are treating each other, but we do get it through the lens of a point of view character who kind of looks at it and goes, wow, that's not great, huh? And it treats its readers a little bit better in that regard. This absolutely could be a series that would be incredibly damaging to read.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, at least it's not for me. I know, Dare, you kind of mentioned, like, some parallels before.
Yeah, it's the one thing I will, once again, another thing I want to give credit to is it does not linger on, like, any gruesomeness about it in a way that is appreciated, because, like, it could definitely go the hard, like, hey, we want to really just hammer in all the bad details. It happens and is mentioned, it goes the opposite way, in which it mentions stuff so fast that you can just sort of not realize, like, we're just gonna, like, mention the huge body count that shows up rapidly, and, like, not even give us that much time to breathe, which I don't know if that's, I prefer at least that to hard, gruesome, like, looking at it, but it is still not intentionally callous, but just, like, just look at the sheer amount of destruction left in the wake of this very, very selfish act. And I will also, once again, like, I've mentioned it a couple of times, the class stuff. I think this act goes a lot, says a lot about, I think, wealth, at least for how these characters, the principal murderers, feel about it, because there's always the situation of divorce, and just like, you'll be poor, but you'll be with the partner you want to be, and you'd still have all of your family alive. Like,
yeah, this guy would literally rather kill his brother and his wife,
and not worry about how it killed his parents,
then lose access to his wealth and privilege from that.
Yeah.
Because, like, also, like,
that's
they didn't intentionally kill the parents, but, like, they still died, and, like, if that does, I just, Harley, like, to me, like, I would never do stage 1 of this plan. If for some reason I had done stage 1 of this plan, and then it meant that, like, people that I cared about were like, oh, I cannot live in this world knowing that you did that, I'd be like, oh, I have messed up.
Yeah, like,
to be fair,
I have messed up. Like,
to be fair, would either one of you have outed yourselves to your parents if you did carry out stage 1 of this plan?
Yeah, like, kudos to the parents for being, good enough parents to be like, oh, that's not that kid. They're clearly not, like, because they could have been callous enough, especially if the mother is as bad as, sort of the way the Harley feels about her, That if she's truly callous and did not care about him at all, she would not have realized that it was a different kid.
Yeah.
Like, she truly cared about both of her kids enough to realize that, oh, my son has totally killed and taken the identity of his twin brother. I'm gonna now be so stressed. This will inevitably end my life as well.
Also, mentioning just because, like, prison is the kind of thing that changes people. Like,
spoiler alert for the book: he was gone because he was in jail.
Yeah,
because we didn't actually say that out loud.
Prison is the kind of thing that changes people. To me, one of the most unrealistic things in here is that the twins, despite like that event for only one of them, were so physically similar that all they needed was a mustache. Really?
Yeah.
How long was he gone, though? It wasn't forever. It was not a long...
It was a year.
Was it a year?
It was only a year, which is not a lot of time.
That's not a lot. Yeah.
Like, it's not a lot of time.
Also, like, rich white kid in jail.
Yeah.
And we have no details about his jail experience, but we don't actually know that he was being mistreated in a lot of the ways that we kind of connotatively associate with treatment of prisoners.
That's true.
So, just throwing that out there. We don't actually know that he would have actually undergone anything.
I don't know, it just feels so strange.
I should be more specific. Rich white kid in jail in the 70s. 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, I think this book in particular came out in, like, the early 80s. I don't know when it was actually written, because this author's very mysterious, didn't talk a lot. But, like, if it came out in the 80s and was written anywhere near that time, phones exist. Like, a year does not necessarily mean you had to cut ties with your romantic interest, and maybe it would have been in poor taste or something. But, like...
1988.
Yeah, that phones existed in 1988. I can guarantee. Like, he could have easily just been like, "Hey, I'm gonna make you my pen pal. Wait for me. We'll do a dramatic eloping or something."
Man,
there feels like several leaps in logic to I'm going to end my brother's life and take his mustache and get my girl back
after marrying somebody else.
Yes.
No way the parents talked to him in jail. My bet is he didn't know anything.
Oh, I was assuming
anything until he got out of jail and his girlfriend had married his brother.
I was thinking Dare meant that his girlfriend would call him.
Yeah, like
okay. Good point.
Being gone that year, that's perfect dramatic fodder of like every night I'm thinking of you. I'm gonna write these letters. Right. Like,
yeah. Even if like phones aren't working well with prison in the 80s, like letters.
Mail existed in 1988. I can guarantee that. Like,
yeah, it is definitely a wild, like, oh no, I can't lose my fundage. My only option is murder. Like, no.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
They didn't cheat.
Like, they're...
Like...
Yeah, that could have... Yeah. Like...
That would have been a very different book.
the sheer, like, chaos and damage that they leave because they're just selfish and also really want money. Like, not even to say anything of the car crash guys.
Best solution? Not getting bullied into marrying this person just to keep your inheritance. Next best thing, not marrying someone despite your parents. Now, after that, gosh, just get a divorce. Both of you? What are you doing? And then apparently, since they didn't do steps 1, 2, and 3, apparently, murder is the only thing that's left, I guess. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe, like... I don't want to advocate cheating, but also if your options are cheating or a murder so heinous that it side kills your parents,
or your parents are literally, you're not like you have no life skills because your rich parents have deliberately kept you from life skills and are just literally like canonically handing them an allowance. Just your trust fund kids.
Also,
stash your money.
Pulling this back to the lens that
and then do what you want.
Author is the only one with agency inflicting anything on these characters. I will say,
but
for a
why
murder
not have
mystery
the kids?
plot, it is fantastic.
Yeah, chef's kiss.
Yeah, very much so.
Like,
I'm just thinking, is it weird that my brain is like, you could have just embezzled and then eloped or something? Like, you have the resources.
We also didn't mention, in terms of like what these guys do in their free time, is they are pretty decent actors. Also, they were bankers. That's not like a job in which you'd have to really be scrimping for a while. Give it 5 years, you'd be okay.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, like there's so many other routes, but then it wouldn't be a murder mystery.
Oh, of course,
novel. So whatever.
No,
what are you gonna do?
It says so much about wealth.
If you're a rich trust fund kid in a murder mystery novel, obviously you're just going to kill your twin.
Yes.
Like you're not
that's the only
options
solution
at that point.
is the old murder switcheroo.
Right.
But yeah, so like, author, the only one with agency. Good job.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Yeah, this is like the first murder mystery I think we've done. We did one where like, okay, I guess the Raven Tower would count. We've done ones where like there's mystery around a murder.
Oh yeah, this is the first actual
like,
murder mystery. Yeah.
Yeah, not that the Raven Tower isn't, but like this is like
there's no
genre.
Questions
there's
about
nothing else. There's no fantasy twist.
Like hard whodunit.
Coco.
Yes, it's a whodunit. There we go. And so in the whodunit, you need a who and something they did. And this is a
Only
really
one
intriguing
can look like
one.
me.
Just convoluted enough to not be one that I would think of as the solution. I was like, oh my goodness, when it happened. Did not see that coming. Was genuinely surprised. Coco was no help to me figuring it out.
Well, to be fair, you don't have feline ESP.
I was not smart enough to appreciate Coco's brilliance and all of the awesome clues that he was leaving. Yes, absolutely, I dropped the ball there. But yeah, I ended up really liking this one. Like, I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, and like, especially having talked through it, I'm like, this is really well done. This is really well crafted.
Yeah, it was a very fun read. And the twist was like, I was like, all right, maybe the brother did it. Wasn't expecting the brother to have also been the victim, which is a very fun one.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be the first time. So I didn't remember the ending to this one when I reread it for this. Going in, I was like, is it the bookseller?
Yeah, they do give the bookseller some like, ooh, for a
Spooky
minute.
Vibes.
Big red herring for a second.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
On to the wrap-up and ratings. For our gratuity rating for Erasure, Dare, what do you think?
So, it's I am torn, because like part of me wants to say off screen because it is treated so, just like not that focused to everybody, but I think with how like pointed that lack of treatment is, might bump it up to at least a mild for me.
I would point out that things are said.
Yes.
Things are said about her to contribute to, like, she is mentioned without her name.
Yes, a good amount of time. She's not mentioned in any, like, very rarely, if at all, in a favorable way. So, Somewhere I think between mild and moderate is where I'm leaning.
I'm a fan of moderate. Yeah.
Yeah, moderate feels right for this.
Because on the one hand, it's definitely not a lot, but on the other hand, when it does come up, it's not an aside, like it is like the context of those conversations, and
It's very pointed.
Yeah, I would argue that bumps it up to moderate.
This has a similar difficulty with like how we talk about neglect as a trauma in the wrap-ups. Like it's a similar kind of issue where the problem is that something isn't happening.
Yes. It's messy.
Okay, so here's my argument for moderate.
Well,
I also agree.
I know. I just want to outline why I don't think mild. Yeah. So I think if this trauma was never the focus of these conversations, that would jump it to mild, because as an audience, we are not experiencing or watching this character go through this. It's just in subtext 100%. But it's not off screen because, well, actually, yeah, that would kick it to mild off screen, I think. But the fact that it is the main portion of several conversations and we are watching it happen to this character in a way, and then it's pointed out that it is happening to this character. I think that's my argument for moderate, because this could totally have been written in a way where like it's almost fridge horror and you don't realize it until it's over. But the book takes its time to show you that this is happening, and I think that's my justification for moderate.
No, that
solid.
works. Yep. The car accident. This is severe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is given so much weight and treated with that weight.
Now, I will, since we're making clear that the trauma is car accident, I will say that it's not a gory kind of severe. The trauma isn't strictly the accident.
No. And also, can we slap a positive disclaimer on it? Is that too much of a spoiler territory?
It involves no, I think that's going to be a spoiler. I think we're poised at the point where,
how about without naming any characters?
Mm-hmm.
And I can edit this out.
Kill anyone.
Yeah, I was going to say everybody lives, but it is a car accident.
The very particular car accident we're talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody lives.
Yes.
Because there's more than one in this book. But the very particular one that is the focus of our segment, everybody lives. A lot of stress.
A lot of stress in that one scene.
Yeah. All right. Then the death.
Is it off screen or severe? Or both?
That fun middle ground. The good old off screen severe trauma.
So to be fair, this is a murder mystery book, and most of the time, from what I understand, because it's not a genre I read very often, murder mystery books don't tend to have the audience watch the murder, because then it's not a mystery.
Exactly.
So, is it off screen by default?
I think it's off screen, but our care rating will be interesting. Because this happened somewhere else. Let me talk so much about the traumatic thing that happened off screen.
Absolutely.
True. That's true. That it is the whole plot.
Yeah. Talking about a bad thing that happened to somebody else just previously.
And they don't talk about it very viscerally.
No, they're not.
Yeah, the story is not the story without discussing everything around that.
Mm-hmm.
We also talk about multiple characters with this one, which could bump it up to severe anyway, because there's more than one source of trauma?
Nah,
Or is it more moderate?
I really think it's backstory.
Just straight well, it happens during the book. So just straight up off screen.
My apologies, off screen. I think it's just straight up off screen. And the care rating is where we'll talk about, like, lingering on descriptions, because, like, the way the description gets truncated just by being passed on through the grapevine to let them know that this thing happened, that transforms it and turns it into, we get the information, but we don't have the omniscient narrator describing, we don't have the panicked first person reaction like we do for the car accident.
And also, if you're going with like a rating as like, if it, I will say this hopefully this is incredibly a kind of an obtuse in your face response, but I'm going to say it out loud anyway. This is a murder mystery series. If you, as a person, as a consumer of books, is not okay with murder and death, this is not the series for you.
And that is okay.
So, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I just do want to state that like, we're not making light of the fact that our topic is death, but
we're just saying
the
that
whole
the description
genre
on the page is as a very minimal.
Is fascinating with the way stuff like that is treated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Integral, interchangeable, or irrelevant for the erasure.
You guys are going to hate my answer.
Oh, no. Are you going to say it's irrelevant? You better not. It's integral.
No.
It's integral.
I think it's irrelevant.
I think I would agree in the way that that it is treated.
This feels like the final death or something.
In the way that the erasure is handled and treated, you could replace like that erasure with like something else, or something being stolen, and it would be given the same weight.
I think you could even straight up just change the way they refer to this person and have it just be the unnamed spouse that we don't really care about enough to talk about, and it would not even change the story a little bit. They
literally just said her name instead of not saying her name over and over.
Yeah, they could literally just say the wife. And
okay, but does that make it interchangeable, or is it really irrelevant?
I think it's really irrelevant, because like even those conversations only really have to do with setting up somebody else's motives, somebody else's actions, instead of hearing about how this character is the evidence for someone else's actions. We could have just been hearing about those actions. We didn't need this character as a justification at all.
Oh no, I hate that. I don't think you're wrong. I just hate that because I don't know, it feels like one of those, like, you know, like the final death is when no one remembers that you are alive. Like, it feels like one of those kind of moments because bad. Oh no, that's so awful.
Sorry. No. Yeah. No, I think this trauma...
Like, I'm fine. I'm just like...
We'll get to this. I have opinions on how this trauma was handled, but I definitely think the trauma itself was irrelevant. I think it was put in because the author wanted it to exist in the book and for no other reason.
I mean, technically that's the whole book, but I take your point. All right. Car accident.
You're going to hate my answer too.
Oh no, you're going to say it's irrelevant.
If you cut that whole scene out, nothing happens.
Violence has been chosen.
It's literally nothing changes.
But it shows all this stuff about his character.
Has nothing to do with the plot at all. He's not even part of the plot at all. He's an observer.
One who came up with great words for this rating.
Yeah, as like.
They're betraying me.
It is fascinating. It's a great scene. It may be my favorite scene, like, in the book. it does not, like, it could be cut and thrown into any other book in this series, and I think it would be the same.
Oh no, you're right.
I'll throw this in. The one plot element that it could have affected, that effect was negated by somebody canceling plans.
Oh no.
It has no plot relevance, no plot implications.
It's still a good
just
scene,
character development.
but yeah.
It's a great scene. It's
It
the
is.
best scene. It was the one that I most wanted us to talk
And it
about
is.
in the thing. All right. Well,
Now,
glad-
good news or bad
I'm
news.
glad you're here, Dare, so that we didn't have me and Nicole arguing for 10 minutes, even though I was very, very wrong. I appreciate you weighing in.
I did not
You can
mean
show
to be
me
the
the error
arbiter
of my ways.
and given such power.
No,
it's fine. I'm like, I came up with these cool words. Let's make them all eyes. Let's make it integral and changeable and irrelevant. And they have betrayed me. And it's fine. Okay. All right. At least.
No, good news.
Let me say.
Third category,
Topic-
not going to be
topic
irrelevant.
Topic 3. I'm saving my
Well-
lifeline here,
Well,
which is ironic. Oh no, you better. Oh,
no, I'm
no.
not going to say it's irrelevant, but this is the
Okay,
one
good.
category that would be really nice if it was.
It's literally impossible.
It
Yeah.
is integral to the plot. This is we put the murder in murder mystery.
This is how whodunit work.
Yup.
This is the done it and who done it, or the who and who done it? I don't know.
It's both?
Well, this is the done it and who
Both?
done it. The who and who done it is the spoiler.
Oh, well, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That's how that works. Yeah. So, thank goodness something is integral to the plot. Have we had an entirely irrelevant book yet?
I think so. I think we had one, and it was a
we
huge
had one.
deal.
That was a weird day.
Oh
Yeah.
no, we had one where there was 2 irrelevants and an interchangeable, and we were like, uh-oh.
But yeah, okay, no, this is definitely integral. That is, like, the whole reason for this book to exist is figuring out exactly what happened with this. Okay, alright, I'm feeling better. Feeling good. Okay, treated with care. For Erasure,
I'm gonna let you 2 go first with your
yeah,
thoughts on this.
you say, because you had, like, I mean, obviously, don't restate that comparison here, but I think that the perspective with the comparison that you mentioned might guide this particular rating. What do you think?
I am like I am like, I feel strong not enough, in which, like, I would have loved a lot more. I mean, like, the issue is, and the reason why we even have it here as Erasure, is to the way this character and everything around them was treated with such a irrelevance. They exist to mostly add a number to the body count and not too much else.
And also, that not enough makes sense, because also, I had a thought. I hope I haven't lost it.
Here comes a thought.
No, that'll be an earworm. No, thank you. Because I think the part of what makes it not enough is I don't think the book does enough to point out that the erasure is happening and is a problem. I think it's just there. And so if you're not going into the book with a lens of, like, who is getting hurt, which is, our lens going into this.
Right.
I think if you weren't going in with a lens that is that or something similar, where you're, like, looking to see where trauma happens and to whom and in what way, if you don't have a lens like that, it probably doesn't even feel like anything with this trauma happened, because it's all about what they don't have.
Yeah, I was also gonna argue not enough. Mostly because this character, by definition, cannot ever get closure, and neither do we.
Yeah.
Just in general. And also, the author does not go so far in, like she highlights it enough that you can't brush past it and not notice. Like, it walks that really weird line of, like, if it had been explored more and if there was any kind of closure at all, it might have been a better rating on our scale, or if it had been taken out a little bit more, it might have we might even not have had it to talk about for in the first place, but it's right in that line where, like, it's just enough that you absolutely can't ignore it, and you get no closure, and neither does the character. And if you're, like us, especially, paying attention to it, like Robin said, you can't ignore it. You can't just walk away.
Yeah, because once I was like, we're on our third or fourth mention, and I'm not sure what her name is. Like, once it's at that point, it's like, oh, we should talk about this. Okay. Alright. Okay, so the car accident. This one's odd, because I think the point is watching the emotional reaction to the accident. Like, the accident itself is almost secondary.
Yeah.
I think we're there to watch him freak out and not be okay with this thing that's been kind of built up in the book. And I think that makes it... I think that also makes it either no or not enough, because...
So,
we're
this
not
could have...
So this wasn't torture porn because we weren't supposed to enjoy his reaction, but we are supposed to watch it.
We are supposed to watch it. The one thing okay, there are a lot of ways in which this scene could have been a lot more traumatic to go through as an audience. And I think, I'm not sure what direction this will swing, or not. Any thoughts? But there is something to be said for, we are not given any indicators as to the outcome until our protagonist is. There is a lot more care that could have been taken and is taken in other books, where you just give the reader just a little sneak peek of, oh, there's the clue. That's what he missed. It'll be fine. Our character just doesn't know it yet. And we get
zero
nothing.
Dramatic irony. We are meant to sit in the passenger seat as this is happening, and also just feel the same emotions.
And it does involve pets, which
because the reader is a reader, we're left in suspense for like a while.
Yeah,
we spend more pages being left in suspense than we get describing all of the deaths in our very specific death category.
Yes.
True. Yeah, the one thing I do think I'm leaning more on the not enough category personally than I am on just straight up no. But the only reason for that is because we do watch our protag get emotional support and physical support and help. So
but
we're not
the
sitting there watching him struggle alone. And I that
like,
for
half
me
the people
makes
who
it feel
showed
less.
up, he sent away because he was like, "Stop saying the thing that you're saying. You are not helpful."
That's true, but that's cathartic.
Oh, I guess
for me, like if he had gone, oh, you're probably right, and whatever, or if we had to just sit there and watch a litany of people saying it's gonna be awful, it is terrible, here are your worst case scenarios, and then he didn't send those people away, or even if it was just one person and he didn't get the opportunity to tell them that wasn't helpful right now, that would have been, that for me, from my perspective, as from my experience reading this, that would have been just straight up no care. Because now we have to sit there and we don't get to see him just set that boundary. But what we see on screen is his wishes and his desires and the things that he needs emotionally and physically in this moment take precedence. And that's the thing that, at least, again, this might be a your mileage may vary category, maybe, I don't know. But that to me pushes it to the not enough, to the not enough level, because that feels like care. That feels like we are observing this thing, but his needs are being centered. He is getting help.
He is also not alone for all of the scene.
That's a good point.
Which I think also.
Right, he's not sitting in the dark and cold by himself. Yeah.
But he was ready to.
He was ready to, but we didn't have to watch him do that.
Okay, I will accept not enough, pointing out that he does have somebody for a lot of that.
And from an author agency perspective, he has multiple people until he gets the one that is helpful.
This is true.
The author didn't have to give him multiple opportunities for support.
Mm-hmm.
And she did, so.
Okay. Then the death. Okay, so. I don't feel like this was treated with care.
No,
just not at all. There's not enough words devoted to it on the page to allow room for care. It's off-screen, the rare off-screen no care rating.
This might be a first for us. We've had mild no care. I don't think we've ever had off-screen or backstory no care. Because usually those things don't end up on the page enough for us to have enough context to say no care.
And like, with the way the Erasure is compounds an aspect of this topic, like, isn't the reason that it's no care, but it does make it a bit worse.
I think some of this may also have to do with the actual medium itself. Whodunits are a very weird type of story in which, like, it is like the deaths in question are less about the actual emotional fallout and more about the straight facts and everything that is related to like the people involved, victims and perpetrators alike. It, like, I can't think of many that are actually, like, I will say the rare whodunit that feels a lot more about the emotions is like something like the movie Knives Out, whereas this and a lot of like the classics are a lot more about like, I was here in this place and like maybe me and this person didn't get along, but it's not about how much I really cared about them. Not a lot of the time, it's a situation where not many people liked them, or like they aren't thought about wistfully or anything like that. They are often just, here are the facts, here's what I've heard. The second the bodies go cold, it is mostly about the just hard objectiveness of everything around them, and not really anyone's place to comment how they felt about those facts.
Especially our protagonist, who makes almost a point of quoting people that we watch him interview.
Yeah, he is deliberately objective.
Also, like, I will say it's kind of the illusion of objectivity, because
absolutely,
this is like a way more like nuanced discussion, but like, he's not actually objective.
Oh,
no, he's objective. Coco knows exactly what's going on, has no nonsense about how to do it, and Qwilleran is too busy being a human with other stuff to do to pay attention to the objective facts and figure out immediately what's happening.
The objective glue bindings.
But yeah, like he's trying to be objective, but yeah, absolutely. Like, the deaths aren't even about the people who die. Like, they're just, you're right, they're just not. They're about, what does this mean for Qwilleran's overarching journey of being a person who keeps figuring out how people died and solving mysteries.
You mentioned Knives Out as being an example of not doing this. Can I throw out an example of a show, actually, where it does feel like this?
Sure.
I feel like Law and Order.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't walk into Law & Order expecting there to be care taken with the murder scenes or the descriptions. You can't. They don't. They do not. They pull no punches on that show.
Especially...
sometimes even physically.
Yeah, and especially with the nature of something like that being very ripped from the headlines, it reaches a point where the care hits the real world of, like, it feels a little weird to do an episode based on this thing that happened in the last few years, or something like, Gamergate. And it feels like a weird thing to then pull from that and go like, well, we're just going to build a thing about trauma and the end of someone's life around that, I guess. Despite there being real victims who are still walking around dealing with the after effects.
I just remembered an episode that I want to, like, mention as an example of this, but I don't want to go down a Law & Order rabbit hole in this wrap-up, especially since,
I just want to mention, because you actually mentioned the ripped from the headlines angle, which is not something I thought about, but I did think it was funny. I do think it is funny. Qwilleran is a journalist.
Yes.
So, that's almost the same, like, not just similar in a ripped from a headlines feel, but he is writing the headline.
Yeah.
So it is a very, very, very parallel
he joins the brand new local paper
in this book.
Did he help name it?
Yeah, but he did
help name it.
Prior to several other plot points and resources he gains in the series, he was a journalist. That was his career. So there's that.
Right. That is all 3 traumas. So we're on to the point of view. For the trauma and the aftermath. Hey, do you two think it's Qwilleran?
I'm not sure. It might be Coco.
As much as I'd love it to be Yum Yum, it has to be Qwilleran.
Yeah.
Yum Yum is
Yum Yum
precious.
doesn't get enough love. Team Yum Yum over here.
I feel like Quill would agree with you. Also,
but I don't know. I feel like at a certain point he spends so much time talking about how she doesn't get enough love that she's actually getting more attention than Coco.
Oh, that's not how cat works. Cats work, Robin. You know this.
I've only ever had my one cat at a time, so I have only had my one cat to devote all my emotional energy to at a time.
Oh, well, okay, but...
Yeah, which is, so...
Sure, semantically.
Else. Yeah. But, anyway, it's Qwilleran for everything.
Qwilleran forever.
Alright, does anyone have an aspiring writer tip?
I almost feel like we started to say one with our... Dare, with your point about whodunits. Unless somebody has something else.
I can expand on that point and make it the writer's tip.
Yeah.
I think the key to making a much more memorable and I think a better whodunit is, showcase care. Make caring about these people and the emotions behind it a core part of your mystery if you're going to do that. Because the loss of a person is a traumatic thing, and giving it the weight it deserves, I think, leads to some more impactful writing.
Yeah. Well said.
Favorite non-traumatic thing about this book? Did we already say this too?
Okay. My favorite non-traumatic thing is Qwilleran talking about Yum Yum like she's a feminist, but then like backing it up with actions. And I did mention this in one of the other sections, but like he thinks that she's stressed out because of her litter pan situation because it is plastic and not identical to what Coco has. And so he's like, she will not suffer this unequal treatment. And then he like backs that up and does something to fix it. And I appreciated the follow through because I was worried at first that it was going to be like some like shrieking feminist caricature or something. And it's like, no, he cares about her. He's doing it in like this weird skewed anthropomorphic way, which is somewhat inevitable when you have a cat, but like ascribing these political views to the cat, I felt like a little odd. But I did really like it. I like the way that the cats have their own apartment. And now that I know the litter box rule of like number of cats plus 1 should be your number of litter boxes, all I could think about every time it got mentioned was Qwilleran, you're one short. I know you're being cute and giving them each their own bathroom, but you're one short. You need one
a communal
more.
one.
So anyway, that was my favorite thing in this. Dare, what was yours?
So a thing I really did appreciate is, due to this like very small town, there's a lot of love and put into the architecture and the descriptors used to describe, whether it's the walls or the like way the houses look or the way these storefronts are. And I really do like that sort of small town writing, especially if, you know, this town being a core just part of the series. I enjoyed it a lot.
Nice.
So I think my favorite non-traumatic thing is absolutely Coco, but just so that we're not, you know, only waxing positive about kitties. Or
but you could.
You know, we could. I could absolutely just make this a Coco-centric opinion. I just want to highlight that no profession in the town of Pickaxe specifically, or I should say this, by Qwilleran, no professionals are disparaged for their profession. Because it is a small town, people are very much they are the architect or the salesperson, and there's definitely some classist things that happen with this town in this story, but Qwilleran never talks to a professional, either in person or in his head, and talks down to them or bad about them. And it's, you know, he has the same types of conversations with the taxidermist that he does with the architect, that he does with the bookseller, that he does with the guy who he does with his ex-housekeeper. And never once do we see our main character saying that somebody is inherently better than somebody else for their job.
Yeah, like when we had the taxidermy, I was like, oh no, what is this going to be? But like, he doesn't let his personal, like,
well, and he doesn't even
taxidermy come up like at all. Or
yeah,
anything.
No,
you can tell he's
that's the thing that I like.
So you can tell he's uncomfortable, but he doesn't put that on the person he's talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he definitely has opinions about his own comfort level with various things, but never once does that reflect on treating the person who is comfortable with those things.
Yeah, that's just someone doing their trade and may not like that trade necessarily, but he respects the fact that you're doing it, and I really do like that as well.
Yeah, yep. And it does put like a nice, I think, juxtaposition to the classism by other characters, because he's not doing that, and he's our point of view, and I feel like that it matters, and I think I really appreciate that in this series.
Well, I think that does it for the cat who sniffed glue. Dare, where can people find you?
Well, once again, just hi, I am Dare. You can find me on Twitter at NBDare, ENBYDARE. I often am just on there yelling about tabletop stuff. I do sensitivity consultant work and a lot of stuff like that. If you ever just want to reach out, DM me. And on Fridays, I currently am streaming a tabletop game that is very Power Rangers influenced called Millennium Knights over at a channel called Nerds with Dice.
Excellent. So we'll have those links in the show notes so people can check you out. So thank you so much for joining us, and audience, we will catch you in a fortnight. All music used in this podcast was created by Nicole as HeartBeatArt Co. and is used with permission.
You can follow us on Twitter at Books That Burn, all one word.
You can email us with questions, comments, or book recommendations at booksthatburn@yahoo.com.
Support us on patreon.com/booksthatburn. All patrons get access to our upcoming book list and receive a one-time shout-out.
You can leave us an iTunes review. This helps people to find the show.
And find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks.